Welcome back. So we've mentioned the importance of communicating information. I want to relate two grand ideas of information technology together, and those two ideas are information and intelligence. You're going to see this topic a lot in both of the first two courses in the curriculum. And you're going to say, gee, you're repeating yourself a lot. That's okay. These are really important. They're kind of a fundamental IT concept. Information and intelligence. This is how these two ideas are related. Information comes from intelligence. If you have information, it must have come from intelligence. Or you could phrase it this way. Intelligence is necessary to create information. I'm going to show it as a cause and effect. When I have this arrow from intelligence to information, what I mean is this is a cause and effect relationship. If you start with the effect, information, you can conclude that had to come from intelligence. Or if you start from the cause, you could say it requires, I can't get out of that. Intelligence is necessary to create information. The two concepts are definitely related there. Here's your task as an IT professional. Your job is to supply your intelligence so you can provide information to other people. Your job as an IT professional is to supply your intelligence so you can provide information to other people. Now notice I can say that in a number of different ways, right? Instead of saying supplying information, I could say help other people solve problems. We already know solving problems is the communication of information, so those two things go together, right? Your job as an IT professional, yes, is to solve problems. How are you going to do that? You're going to supply your intelligence in order to create the information that's necessary for other people. Exactly. These two concepts will come up time and time again. We'll see it in a number of different contexts. But you probably realize this is hard to do. This isn't easy, right? Solving problems is hard work. Thinking about it, you got to work at it. You got to practice. And the other thing that you need is you need a knowledge base. You know, it'd be one thing to say, hey, I'll just work hard at it. But to work hard at it implies that you can draw from something. Right? Let's just pretend that you know nothing about American football. Maybe that's true. And I tell you, okay, I want you to go practice 8 hours a day. Go. Well, what do I do? Just go. Just work on it. Work hard. I don't know what to do. Whatever you do probably isn't going to be helpful, right? Exactly. Why? Because you don't have a knowledge base to draw upon. Well, one of the purposes of sitting through 13 courses in our MSIT program is to give you the knowledge base. Yeah, you're going to develop a lot of this as we go along. But part of our charge as instructors is to provide you with the fundamental concepts that you need to create your own knowledge base. What is information technology? I mean, we all have some idea, but what is it really? What are all the constituent components? How do I do it? What's necessary to do it well and right? So one of the things we've got to do in this class and the other 12 is to give you a knowledge base. So we will be talking about a lot of the fundamental concepts, and then I'll give you a chance to practice these things with homework assignments. Okay? Good. When it comes to problem solving, I want to talk about how to solve problems. First of all, I want to talk about it in a very abstract way. And by abstract, I mean simplified. When you take a look at, in almost any discipline, if you ask, well, how do you solve problems in that area? Everybody has kind of a similar model or idea. In order to solve problems, people will say, well, the first step is you need to understand the problem. Once you understand the problem, the next step is to plan a solution. Once you've planned a solution, the next step is to create something. Create, build, whatever. And then perhaps a final step is to test. Check it out, see if it actually works. That's a great abstract, that is simplified, problem-solving model. And we're going to talk about that in the context of IT in a number of the courses. Understand the problem, plan the solution, create something, build something, apply or manage something, and then test. In IT, we take that and we mold it a little bit. We add a step or two and change some terms. And there's something that many people call the system development life cycle. So problem solving in IT is oftentimes referred to as system development. And the process itself is called the life cycle. So the system development life cycle. If you go to different IT shops, if you read different books, they'll use different terms, but these are the ones that I use. The first step is something called requirements. And you know what? Requirements has a whole lot of understanding the problem within it. The next step is something called specifications. Requirements sort of has a focus on, why is there a problem? Tell me about the problem. Specifications has a focus on, what would the answer look like? What's the solution? The next step is design. Design has a focus of how. How are you going to do that? If the requirements is the why of my problem, and the specifications is the what of the solution, design is, how am I going to get there? How am I going to do this thing? The next step is implementation. Implementation is, now I got to build it. I got to create it. But as we'll see, both design and implementation are part of what I called create before. But the implementation is the actual instantiation of the solution. And then the final step or phase is maintenance. This is problem solving in the world of information technology. Both of these are appropriate. The system development life cycle is more specific for us, whereas these 4 steps are a little more abstract, but they're both how we approach solving problems. Questions?
The deployment, where do we...
Deployment would happen within implementation. Right. And again, people are going to have different words. Sometimes people use just requirements when they mean both of these. I've seen requirement specifications. I've seen different words for these 2 things here. But the actual deployment, that is, okay, it's time to turn on the system, right, happens right here in actually the very last step of implementation. Good question. A problem for universities worldwide is the issue of plagiarism. My comic. What do you mean all my facts are wrong? I copied everything straight off the internet. Yeah. Well, first of all, if your source of all knowledge is Wikipedia, you're missing a lot of knowledge. Secondly, the operative word there is copied. Okay. Plagiarism, a straightforward definition, is using the words or ideas of another person as if they were your own. Using the words or idea of another person as if they were your own. Some examples of plagiarism. If you were going to create a document and submit it in the MSIT program, and you went to Wikipedia and you copied and pasted, put your name at the top, that's plagiarism. But interestingly, let's just say you went to a site, by the way, I have to be careful what I say, because sometimes when I say this about Wikipedia, people say, well, can anything good come out of Wikipedia? Wikipedia is a fine resource if you don't have a clue. Go there and get an initial, but don't stop at Wikipedia. And as a matter of fact, please don't use Wikipedia as a citation source in any of your documents here. Wikipedia is fine for, if you didn't know anything about nuclear magnetic resonance, you could go there and read. It could be right, it could be wrong, but maybe you'll get some insight. But for real academic stuff, we could do better. Let's put it that way. We can do better than that. Let's say you found a site. Let's say it was a white paper posted online by IBM. And you didn't copy it directly, but you just kind of changed every third word. That's also plagiarism. Let's say you found a textbook on something, and although you didn't copy it and just change the words, you got all your insight by reading that chapter or reading that section or reading that paragraph, and then you just rewrote it in your own words. You know what? That's also plagiarism. Being a master's degree seeking student means that you need to think deeply about the subject. Can I use references and resources? Absolutely. But you need to, first of all, add your own insight to it, and secondly, certainly express it in a way and organize it in a way that's unique to you. Any resource you are using in consulting does need to be cited. But just because you cite a source doesn't mean that you haven't plagiarized. If you pull something directly from a website and put it in your document, just in the bibliography, say, I went to this website, no, that's not good enough. If you're using it verbatim, you have to quote it. You have to reference it. And if your entire paper is all quotes and references, then I want you to do some things too. Okay? Is it okay to make use of the knowledge of other people? Absolutely. Can you go to IBM's site? Or can you use your favorite search engine like Good Search and look up a bunch? Absolutely. But that's not the end of the story. That's just the beginning. Now, you supply your own knowledge to it, synthesize things together, and express it in your own way, organized in your own way, and anything that you did use, also cite. Plagiarism is a problem. I don't want to scare you. I don't want to overemphasize this. But for whatever reason, every year we dismiss people from the MSIT program for plagiarism. We take it very seriously here. A couple years ago, I dismissed somebody just before their last class. Imagine spending a couple years and how many $1,000, and then you were expelled from the program just before your last class? Nobody liked that, least of all me. So don't do it. Plagiarism is a serious offense around here. You're going to learn all about it in this class because I don't want that to happen to you. We're going to talk about it, and you're going to discover a lot of stuff about that. Okay? We'll say more later. I want to go back to Angel, and I want to show you the assignments in Unit 1. I want to talk to you about what this first 2-week period is all about. I've been giving you a lot of background right now, and you're going to investigate and do some more on your own. Okay? I'm just going to switch back to Angel. I'm going to go to the Lessons tab in Angel. I'm going to select Unit 1. By the way, up front, this is just saying what the unit is about. This unit focuses on the fundamental differences between undergraduate and graduate studies. Talked about that a little bit this evening. In technical terms, the key difference relates to an important CSIT concept, the nature of instructions. The analogy of undergraduate studies as procedural versus graduate studies as declarative is used to illustrate the difference. Graduate success depends upon understanding the whys and not just the whats, and requires independent analysis of the material. Pragmatic issues ranging from time management to course registration will be discussed. Emphasis is placed on collaboration while avoiding plagiarism. Problem-solving models introduced, and so it goes. The first assignment is going to ask you to read a section from this book. Now, if you don't have this book yet, you're okay, because I've secured permission to reproduce the section right here on Angel. But you need this book pretty quickly, and you also need it for 505, so get it. The first assignment says, read Chapter 4 and especially Section 4.5 on security. Your assignment is to create a one-page document, one-page maximum, which will summarize the last section in the chapter on legal approaches to network security. In your own words, explain the author's point from the first paragraph concisely and accurately, blah, blah, blah. At the end of your document, you include this paragraph. This material is drawn from Chapter 4. So we're citing something. I don't want anybody to think when they read this that you dream this all up on your own. Your job is to summarize the author's position. Okay? I've got some logistical stuff. Read this. Now, here's the reading. Here's a PDF version of this section. So even if you don't have the book, yeah, sure it is. Here's section 4.5. I'm going to ask you to read through this, and I'm going to ask you to summarize what he's saying there in that last little bit. Okay?
Making quotes?
No, I don't want you to quote it, but I do want you to summarize it. In other words, don't just express in your own words, but again, the point, that's a good question. Again, the point is, if I just did that and didn't cite it, that would be plagiarism. Yeah. So I don't want you to just pull out quotes. I want you, in your own words, explain the author's point from the first paragraph concisely and accurately. Because problems are solved when information is communicated, information technologists strive for effective communication. Don't be surprised if I ask you to rewrite and resubmit something. Okay? It does happen. In IT, we write a lot. And if people don't understand what we're writing, there could be problems. So I may ask you to rewrite things that I don't on this one. There are other assignments. I will absolutely do that. Everybody will be asked to rewrite it. B, Unit 1B, define plagiarism. I've given you 3 references here. What I want you to do is to copy and paste. I know you're going to do that. I've told you to do that. That's okay. But I want you to read it and understand it. And then I want you to find 2 other references outside of Wikipedia. Believe it or not, there's other websites beyond Wikipedia. Some people have never seen them. There are. Okay? Just find 2 other ones. I've listed 2 examples, just any ones that you want. Give me their definition. Okay? Now, when you do copy and paste, we're going to identify it within double quote marks and formatted here. By the way, when you submit material to Angel, the Angel website deals with a couple browsers well, Internet Explorer and Mozilla Firefox. Other browsers it doesn't deal with well. If you're a Mac person, I use Macs a lot, it doesn't play well with Safari. It won't upload files for you. Same with Chrome. So if you're working on a Mac, download Firefox and use that. If you're working on a PC, use Internet Explorer. Those are the 2 that work best with Angel. When you create these documents, and the first 2 here are documents, create it using Microsoft Word, or if you use something else, then save it either in Word document format or PDF and then upload it. 1C. There's an attached article, Why an Informatics Degree. I want you to read that article. I want you to create a single paragraph definition of informatics using your own words. Again, don't just copy it verbatim from it. Read and synthesize. Create a definition on your own. Here's the article right here. Boom. 1D. Effects of plagiarism. Now you got to think about this a little bit. Okay. You learned what plagiarism was in a previous assignment. Now I want you to say, so why is it bad? How does it hurt? What's wrong with it? You have to think about that. Again, if you want to use other resources, that's fine too. But maybe what you did in that assignment 1B will help you with 1D. It's just a way to think about it. Another thing I'm going to ask you to do, and this is assignment 1E, I'm going to ask you to keep a journal of the amount of time you're spending in this class. Now, I need to tell you, there is no reason to inflate this. Don't make stuff up. I spent 15 hours No. I'm just interested in how much time people are spending on certain things. You can use any tool you want. I want it to be digital. If you want to put it in a spreadsheet, that's fine. Just tell me the date, how much time, and what you did. Worked on assignment 1B, did whatever. So just keep a journal of the amount of time that you're spending in this class. I'll collect it at the end of each unit. The only way you're being graded on it is whether you do it or not. I'm not adding up the hours and doing anything. I just want you to keep track of what you're doing. 1F is going to ask you to read 2 other resources, the handbook and the catalog, and then take a little quiz. The quizzes on Angel are timed. Do not begin a quiz until you're ready to do it. So you notice it says, okay, this quiz is 20 minutes. Open book, open resources, but you want to read through it first of all. Okay. Don't begin that until you're ready to devote 20 minutes to doing the quiz. So you read, the answers to all those things will be found in these 2 resources, the handbook and the catalog. The last assignment is program planning. I want you to plan your entire degree program. Write down what you're taking this semester, that's easy. What you're going to take next semester, next semester, next semester. Okay. Now, am I going to hold you to that? No, of course not. But again, I want you to plan it out. Plan it out now. you'll have questions. Feel free to ask me, ask somebody, consult these resources, etc. Now again, you're saying, well, when is this due? They go to the calendar. 3 assignments, 1A, 1B, and 1C are due. We're not going to meet next week, but they're due before then. And the other 4, can you work on the other 4s before? Yeah, work on them whenever you want to. This is just when I want you to have submitted them by.
And should we send you that via mail or?
Oh, no. All you have to do is upload it to Angel. Good question. You don't need to email me when you do that. Just upload it to Angel, and then I'll know. So here down below, you'll see this thing. It says submit. Yeah. You have to give it a title. You'll read all about this.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And then try it. Now I know that Angel is new and different and weird for everybody, so I want to make sure everybody can at least access it, and we're going to do that right now. Okay. So lessons tab, calendar tab, both of those things are important. The other ones look at your leisure. Question, sir? Mm-hmm.
For the quiz,
Yes.
do you know how many questions there?
Yeah, good question. If Angel doesn't say, I think that when you get into the quiz, you can see the entire thing, but there are 5 or 10 questions. So the question is, how many questions on the quiz? Answer, I can't remember, somewhere between 5 and 10.
But it's shown before you start.
Yes. Oh, not before you start. As soon as you start, then you can see all the questions, though. But when you click begin, it's going to start the timer. So then you have 20 minutes. But you can see all the questions. It's not like you only see one, you have to answer it, move on, see another one. You can see all of them at once and answer them in any order you like. Okay. Good question. Mm-hmm.
Are they about Unit 1? I mean the question.
Mm-hmm.
Are they about Unit 1?
Oh, no, that particular quiz was about the graduate handbook and catalog. Things that you need to know to be a good, successful graduate student. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's no quiz per se for Unit 1. You're going to understand that material by doing the assignments there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Any other questions that you might have right now?
I have one question. Last night I checked my Angel, but I didn't see any.
Correct, right. And we're going to do that right now. Okay. Well, for those of us on campus, the question is, I went to Angel, I didn't see the course. You're right. This was my fault. I don't know why it wasn't releasing sooner, but I noticed that, so I just want to make sure that everybody else can see it. We're going to do that in just a second. Okay. You're welcome. The other thing I want to share with you is I feel so strongly about this course and your participation in it that the computer science department is going to provide you with some kind of thank you gift, some piece of technology. I do have an absolute budget, and I want to think about what that piece of technology might be, and I also want to think about maybe if you wanted to kick in some money, we could do something a little above my budget. iPad is a little out of my budget, but if you are interested in doing that, if you kick in a little bit of money, we can do that. All right? So I just want to mention that I do appreciate you being here, and we're going to do something to show our appreciation. Just haven't worked what all the details might be just yet. Okay? We'll think about that and discuss it next time too. For those of you listening at a distance, this is the last you're going to hear of me for today. You have other things to do, just as the folks here on campus have some other things to do also.